everybody, Jeff King here, coming to you with another Kickstarter initial impressions video. This time, I don't have anything to kind of throw up on the screen and show you because I didn't get anything like that in this. There's no logo or anything that I can show you, no box. But we are going to be taking a look at Sultan's library, which again is on Kickstarter right now, goes through July 2nd, 2015. So you can definitely go over there and check that out. And what is Sultan's library? Well, the Sultan has decided that he wants a mass collection of books, and you, as one of his envoys, are tasked with going out and exploring the world to bring back the best books that you can. And the competition is that you're trying to get the Sultan's favor, so you're trying to kind of come back with the best books. So real quick, again, this is a prototype / review copy that got sent to us. So when you start seeing the video behind me, you're going to see things like the decks don't have any backs. So keep that in mind. The final version, I would go over to the Kickstarter and check out over there. So primarily a card game. So what we have in this is we have our action deck. And the action deck is made up of things like these journey cards, which have explorer points on them, which we'll get to in a little bit about what you do with those. But for instance, this treasure chest here has 4 explorer points to it. So you get a bunch of these in this deck. You also get, hey, it's an action deck. You should probably have some action cards. So journey cards and action cards make up your action deck. These do various things, can be triggered by their different things, but for instance, this guy here, the book burning, pretty much just lets you take a book away from somebody that's already put one in its scoring position. So kind of a way to mess with your opponent or to slow down the game if you're not ready for it to end yet or whatever. And then you've also got some other action cards like this. And again, there's a wide variety of action cards, but this extra guards basically gives you a chance to kind of, if an event comes up on the location deck, which is the next deck we'll be talking about, and you don't want it to happen, you can use this. And if somebody plays an action card against you, this is one of the few cards you can play out of turn to do that as well. You can stop the event card or an action card from happening. So again, that makes up our action deck. Then we have our location deck, which is has 3 different types of cards in it. And of course, its namesake, we have locations. So this miraculous fountain here has some stuff on it. This is a place that you can basically explore to and find the location for. This 5 up in the corner here is how many explorer points, going back to our treasure chest with 4 explorer points on it. How many explorer points are needed to explore from this location? So again, I got 4 right here. Can't do it with just this card. I'm going to need to have another card to discard with it to get enough to have 5 explorer points. You also might have some special abilities kind of stuff on the bottom. So for the miraculous fountain, when you travel to or from this location, you get to draw a card. So you get basically an extra card out of the action deck. The other thing this 5 is for traveling. It's, let's say this is in front of my opponent and there's a book there that they haven't been able to pick up yet. I want to go try to grab it. It would cost me 5 plus 2. So it's always the cost plus 2 to travel to a location already known. The only exception to that is the big card that's always out, which is the Sultan's library. That is always 3 to explore from it and 3 to travel to it. Anything else, like this miraculous fountain, if I want to go there and it's not already in front of me and I'm not already there, or I leave it and want to come back, it's going to cost me 7 explorer points to do that. So locations, we also have book cards. Book cards are the things we're trying to find, right? We're trying to find some books. So when you find one from exploring from a location, it's going to go on the location. You don't get to auto pick it up. That's an action you can take. But book cards have a knowledge point value up in the top here, which is basically points that you're scoring if you can get this into your deposit area. and again, the book, some flavor text. So really, you're mostly concerned about the points up in the corner there. And then there are also events, like we talked about earlier, the card that can cancel some events. So for instance, this is a sandstorm, and it is saying you have to stay in your current location. You cannot leave your current location. Events do all kinds of different things. So again, some good, some bad, and some of them will let you have the event, and it'll tell you can go ahead and see the next card in the location deck. So you might continue on. And then we've got these guys here, which are your player characters. So there's 4 different characters. There's the merchant, the historian, the thief, and the poet. On these, it'll kind of show your hold area when you've picked up a book, but it's not already deposited. And then you can switch it over to the deposit area, which is basically your main scoring area. It also, everybody has a special ability, so variable player powers. And then it just kind of shows you what you can do, the different actions you can take. And it has a color coding to what each type of card means. So there are those guys. Get some tokens to kind of show where you are when you're traveling. A little first player token. And I kind of already showed you this, but the Sultan's library. This is where you're basically, for the most part, trying to always get back to, because in general, you can't deposit a book for scoring unless you're at the Sultan's library. All right, so thoughts. Well, let's start with the game ends when a person, so one of the envoys deposits 3 or more books in their deposit area. So when that happens, the turn completes. So everybody gets at least their final round of that turn or whatever. So if I'm first player and the person next to me is the person that went the 3 or more books, then everybody else besides me is still going to get one more chance to play. End of game scoring is if you're deposited your books, then you get the points. The knowledge points are victory points as well for those books. And then everybody except for the person that triggered the end game. So again, person to my left triggered the end game. They don't get any bonuses, but everybody else has the potential for bonuses, which is 2 points for every book that you still have in holding, but did not get to put in deposit. So if you're holding books and didn't get them back yet to be able to be deposited, you still get a little credit for that. Again, unless you're the first person that triggered the end game. The other thing is, if you can get back to the Sultan's library before the final end game, before it's all said and done, if your token is in here, you get another bonus 2 points. So you can potentially get some extra points, which is one of the things the person that goes out has to kind of weigh. Who else is still going to get a turn? Where are they at? Where are their points versus what that person could potentially get? That kind of thing. So that is how the game comes together and ends, and how you look at victory. I believe there is a tiebreaker of, let me just double check that real quick. The tiebreaker is if there's a tie on points, whoever has the most explorer points in their hand at that time, and if for some reason there's still a tie, then the Sultan has decided he's done messing with everybody and declares himself the winner. So there's that. All right, now then, thoughts and opinions on this game, initial impressions, if you will. Art style, not all the art is final, and some of them are kind of placeholder art. You can tell very easily, but the art that's in here, I really like. I think it's a pretty nice, slightly different style of art that I appreciate. I think they've done a good job with that. The base of learning the game, the different actions you can take, you can explore, you can pick up a book, you can deposit a book, again, move it so that you can score, but you have to be in the Sultan's library usually to do that. You can play an action, you can play an action card, I should say. You can perform your special action, so your personal ability, or you can travel to a location, or there's something that's called scrounge, where you can forego your 2 actions, or you can forego 2 actions because you might have built up some actions. You can forego 2 actions to basically draw a card. And at the beginning of your turn, you're always going to draw 2 cards. So you're always kind of getting 2 cards, but if you need that extra card, that is a potential way to do it. Usually you only get 2 actions. Again, cards can give you more actions instead of abilities can give you different actions. So in general, with that 2 action thing, sometimes you can feel kind of tight, which that I don't mind. That's not a bad thing. How do I spend my 2 actions? I may not be able to do exactly what I want to do, but I have these 2 actions. Can I do it? That's okay. The part that sometimes doesn't sit well with me is when we're playing and you either have to give up actions or basically just give up actions. If you don't do anything, if you can't really do anything. Now, again, you can spend your 2 actions, your 2 original actions to draw a card if you really want to, but there's a 5 card hand limit, so you may or may not want to do that. The other one, though, is you've used some of your actions, but you can't use all of your actions, so you just kind of give them up, and there's no real way to kind of put that in. So there's a lot of different things you can do with your actions, but a lot of times they're limited in when and where and how you can do them. For instance, exploring really is down to, can I draw explore points out of here? Because you don't just have a universal collection of score points and those add to it. All of your explore points have to come out of this deck. So there are times when you're like, well, I'd love to explore right now, but I've got nothing. Or you're in one of those spots, like say you need 5, 6 explore points to do something, and maybe you've got 2. So you can't really do anything with that. So wasted actions, that I'm not overly fond of. The rulebook itself, and again, this is the prototype version, but I think I've seen a mock-up of kind of, they're staying with this really light rulebook, which in general is okay. You can get the base of how to play the game out of it and do that very well. But there's a lot of things I think still needs explaining and that you're trying to figure out. So that needs to be fleshed out in the rulebook as far as I'm concerned. The rulebook is good for foundation, but after that, there are certain things that come up, like if this is in front of me and somebody's traveled to it, so we're both here, if I explore, now by the rule, the base rule, if I explore and find another location, I get rid of this and I put the new location in front of me. But what happens to the other person that did not explore and was not supposed to come with me? So do I keep that kind of off to the side? They stay there? Do they really get dragged along with me? I mean, what goes on with that? That's not explained in the rule book right now. And that was one of the big things that we had, because we had it kind of actually happen several times. So we weren't sure what to do with it. One of the other things that is not because of the rule book, but because of the way the game is designed, I think maybe something needs to be put in the rule book against this, personal opinion. You know, you're expanding out and exploring from the Sultan's library, and you're bringing books back to the Sultan's library. So you start here, you start exploring here. You can pull books from the library. So I spend my 3 points. I'm trying to, explore, and I pull a book out of the Sultan's library. Then I pick it up. And then maybe next turn, I turn it in. So, hey, Sultan, I found this book that you've been missing for a while. Or, hey, this one that you've been using as a footstool is not a footstool. If you took the cover off, hey, there's a book under there. That didn't sit real well with us sometimes. I think that needs to be changed. I think it just needs to be, if you pull a book, go to the next card, something like that. I don't think you should be finding books in the library to give to the Sultan in his library. That kind of stuff kind of hard with us. And, every time that happened, we kind of had to have a conversation around it and kind of chuckle a bit. So that I'm not fond of in this game. It just kind of breaks what the game, to me, is trying to represent, and the theme it's trying to represent. Also, there are times, I don't know, it's one of those things where you can chain together a bunch of actions, but then a lot of things can happen in one action. So a lot of times we've kind of found ourselves going, all right, was that that was still my first action. Okay, I all those things I did gave me 2-3 more actions, so I've got this many actions left. And then the next action goes, and then maybe that takes a little bit of time. And then you're like, oh, okay, now, all right, that was 2 actions. So now I got to, and so there's no good way to necessarily track your actions right now. You know what? That almost might be something kind of cool that could go on the card here too. It's just like maybe an action tracker towards the bottom, and another little token or something like that. And just go, okay, I just earned, now I start my turn with 2 actions. I did this, that's an action. But I gained 2 actions, so you can kind of track it on there. That would be kind of cool because there was a lot of that lost, especially when single actions get kind of complicated. Like, okay, what was that? I just did a bunch of things, but it was all part of one action. In general, the base of this game, I was fine with. I had a decent time with. The rule book kind of killed it for me. Sometimes the finding books in the Sultan's library kind of killed it for me. Not knowing what to do when we had certain situations come up, like the one we talked about where you're supposed to replace your location. That was kind of a killer at times too. So the other thing I'll say is also the action deck. We cycled through this action deck pretty good, and it just really kind of starts seeming very repetitive. So that started kind of getting repetitive for us, and it's like, oh, okay, well, there's that card again. And then cycling through it so fast, you get a bunch of those book burners kind of going. And then suddenly maybe the game is going to kind of drag a little longer than you'd like it to. So it might, if you go through that and you do a lot of that, it may overstay its welcome just a little bit. But again, at its core, at its base, at its foundation, the basics of the game are decent. They're solid. I don't think there's anything overly outstanding here that really kind of excited me, wowed anybody at the table, really, and kept pulling us in. The one person I haven't had a chance to show this to and see what her impression is Megan. So I'm not sure if this is something that would be in her wheelhouse or not. I may just kind of show it to her and see if she's got a little bit of interest. And if she does, maybe I'll sit down and play it with her. But for the gamers, as we sat around the table, it was uniformly average and uniformly frustrating at times with the things that we've pointed out. And again, I think you can tighten up and sharpen up this game a little bit just from the rule book side of things. If you make it in the rule book, it tightens up what we're doing here. We're not stopping to debate how we should handle certain things all the time. So there you go. I mean, definitely go check it out. It's on, like I said, it's on Kickstarter through July 2nd, 2015. Check out the Kickstarter page, the videos there. There are other reviewers there as well. Get some other opinions. Look over everything. Check out if you can find where they've done a rule book. Because again, I basically got no images and a Word document, if you will. So maybe there's been an improvement on the rule book already that I haven't seen. But last one I thought I saw was still pretty much this, just prettied up a little bit, but it still was fairly basic, going for that quick hit, quick read kind of thing, which again, gets you the basics. You'll get into a game. You'll at least kind of know what you're doing, but there's going to come a time when you've got some questions and you can't go to the rule book to get them answered. All right, there you go, everybody. Again, it's on Kickstarter, Sultan's Library, through July 2nd, 2015, and go check it out and see if this is something that might interest you. All right, I will be back with more videos very soon. Thanks, everybody.